Hey kids, welcome to lesson 8.2, day 1, nested loops for 2D arrays. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use nested loops to traverse a 2D array. Getting to know the number of rows and columns. Arrays know their length, how many elements they can store. The length is a public read-only field, so you can use the dot notation to access this field. That's the array name, dot length. The length of the outer array is the number of rows, and the length of one of the inner arrays is the number of the columns. That means it is reading left to right and up to down. That's the 0. So it's just getting the column 0, however long that is. Well, that's the length of the column. It assumes it's not jagged. Note that length is a field and not a method, so you don't add parentheses after length. However, if you use parentheses after length during the exam, you're not going to lose any points. Since for the AP CSA exam, all two-dimensional arrays are rectangular arrays that have the same number of columns in each row, you can just use the length of the first inner array as the number of columns is shown by ticket info index 0 length, just what we talked about above. How many rows does A have if it is created as follows? We have an integer A, and it looks like we have a row major and 2 sets of data types. Really, we can just move this one down here. 2 would be under 1. Well, that means we have 1, 2 rows. If we come over here, 2 is the answer. Which of the following would I use to get the value in the third row in the second column from a 2D array? Third row, second column. I know you're going to jump over here to 3, 2, but remember, indexes start at 0. That means we need 2, 1. Since you can find out the number of rows and columns in a 2D array, you can use a nested for loop, one loop inside of another loop, to loop or traverse through all of the elements of a 2D array. And if you see here, well, this is the code you just better get familiar with, kids. What we have is our for loop, and we have an inner loop. And you've heard this term, array of arrays. And if you really think about it, it is just a stack of single arrays. That means for row 0, we're going to run through all of the columns. For row 1, we're going to run through all of the columns. On row 2, we're going to run through all of the columns. That means our outer loop controls a lot here. This is how many elements are going through until we move on. When we print off, we always print this way, row, column. Even when we switch to do a column major type, we still keep it row, column. And we're going to talk about that in a second. What will the following code do? Add another row of numbers to the matrix. Will the loop traverse of this row as well? Let's go ahead and take a look at this code. You can see we have a variable getAverage. It's a double. It's also an array, A, and is going to have 2 instance variables, total and value. We are searching through each row as long as there is a row to search. Our inner one is looking through columns. The value is going to equal the row and the column. And then the total is going to be the total plus the value. So it looks like we're going to keep adding to this as we go along. Then we're going to return the total here, which is the total plus the value. And then we're going to divide that by the length of the row times the length of the column. Down here is the data set we're going to use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should add this up and give me an average. Well, let's see if I'm right. 3.5. So the average here, 3.5. It asks us to add another data set. Let's see if it will. I think it'll go through it because we're using the dot length operator, so we can add as much as we want. So if we go 7, 8, 9, we should get 5. We're just adding more numbers in. This isn't all you have to do for this problem, kids. There is going to be a worksheet attached to Classroom, and it's going to have you copy and paste some code in. So we're going to copy this code. We're going to come over here and we're going to delete all of this and then paste this in. Friendly little hint here, kids. This has to be test 1 to run, so just be careful. What we're going to do is see what happens when this prints out. After that, what we're going to do is reverse it. I'm going to show a picture here, kids, and I just want you to see the difference between what a row major and a column major is. And really, it is just flip-flopping these two lines. So keep that in mind when we're working on this worksheet. Then you're going to paste that in and turn that into me. If we hit run, we should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it is in row major form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what we want to do is switch this around so it goes 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. And what we're going to do is we are just going to flip-flop these two lines. And kids, to make it easy, I commented out because I always forget what I'm doing. I'm going to do a new for loop. It's still going to be an int. It's going to be the column though, and that's going to be equal to 0. And column is going to be less than the array length. Oop. Don't forget, we're going through the column. We need to put index 0 because it's assuming the length of 0 is the total length. Dot length. And then column plus plus. We're going to do the same thing down here. For int row is going to equal 0. And then row is less than the array length. Don't need any index there. And then row plus plus. Now when I hit save and run, I should get that new data set. Well, let's see if I'm right. Oh, we got an error. Spelled length wrong. Kids, I had $1 for every time I did that. Now we have 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. Column major. That's how we complete that problem. Make sure you copy and paste that into that document. Some key things to notice about this code are total is declared to be a double, so the result will be a double. If total is declared to be an int, the result would be an integer, and the values after the decimal point would be thrown away. The array is passed as an argument to the method. The number of rows is a.length. The number of columns is a index 0.length. The number of times the loop executes is the number of rows times the number of columns. That's how many elements we get. We have some mixed up code to put together here, kids, and this is a fun one. This method here is going to get the largest number. How do we know that? Well, the name of it is getLargest. What's the first thing we have to do in a method? Usually declare some variables. We have some variables here, and we also have the beginning of our for loop. That is our outer loop. I know we need an inner loop next. After the inner loop, well, we're trying to get the largest number. That means we're going to need a conditional. Over here, we have an if statement. We're also setting a variable to our array there. After we do an if statement, usually we have to set those variables equal to each other. After that, I think we can end our if statement. I think that moves over one. Then after our if statement is going to be our column loop. And then after our column loop, we should end the total loop, give a return, and then add our method. I think that's it. Let's see if I'm right, kids. Hey. If you don't understand what's happening up there, you can use the Java visualizer, but we're going to have a program very similar to this tomorrow, kids. Most nested loops use 2D arrays use row major order, where the outer loop goes through each row. However, you can write nested loops that traverse in column major order like below. And kids, we already saw this. We flip-flopped our rows and our columns, and that's how we do a column major array. We print off, we should get 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. And there you go. And that's it for part 1 of this lesson, kids. Hopefully you found this helpful to understand 2D arrays a little better and how to traverse them. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.